Guys? Welcome to today's vlog. We're here hanging out at the garage and we got the YZ125. I know this is kind of a different sight for you guys. You're not used to seeing it put back together. It's kind of always just been in the way in my garage, and in the last video, in fact, we were beating the forks out of it with a sledgehammer. So needless to say, she's back together, and forks are awesome now. Huge shout out to JR Cycle for affordable and competent work. If you guys are in the Pittsburgh area, go check him out. I'm going to put his link in the description for his website. You know, do him a favor, do yourself a favor, and go get yourself some confident work if you need it. And back to the YZ here. The carburetor is a little bit dirty, going to need some work. Also changing the fuel in it. It does run, but it's not running. It's not running as good as it can. So we're going to fix that up here, clean it up because it needs a bath, and then get it for sale on Craigslist. So we're going to get to it here. I'm not going to waste too much more time, and stay tuned. Alright guys, so I get the question a lot, you know, what am I using to clean my bikes? Super Clean is probably the best product you can use. It's a degreaser, but in all honesty, it works on pretty much anything. It'll clean up plastics, the hard scrapes and dirt marks in those, it'll clean them up. When it comes to grease, obviously it's a degreaser, it takes it right out. And then also the just packed in dirt on the metal, the frame, whatnot, it brings it off, so it pulls it off. So Super Clean, it's not that expensive, and I use it on anything.
Brian Little.
Alright, so we got the YZ all cleaned up now, and I mean, I say all cleaned up, but it's not totally cleaned up. We're going to get it better. There's a couple spots I need to go back, touch up with some steel wool and some WD-40, you know the whole gig. But it's better, and we're going to take that right now, because it was pretty dirty before, and so right now it's at a nice point where we can work on it. It's not going to be too muddy. We're not going to be, you know, fighting through the mud to get to the carburetor, so we're just going to warp right into it and get started. Alright, so we are going to get right into it here. It's actually a common misconception that you have to take the gas tank off to get to the carburetor on these bikes. Yes, it does make it easier, but I'm going to show you guys that you can still get it out. You know, it is a little bit, I shouldn't say harder, but it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle. But in the long run, it does save you time. So if you're in a rush or not feeling like you want to tear it all apart, this is a good way for you to get it apart without having to remove the tank. Now that we have that loosened up enough, we're going to proceed to pulling the carburetor out. First, you want to turn it down like this, and if you can, these look stripped out, which is just going to make it all all the more difficult. There we go, we got one. You're just going to pull the top of the carburetor off where the throttle cable and throttle body goes. And pull this off and put it right there next to you guys. Now, as you guys can probably tell, this bike wasn't really babied or even taken care of. So that does make it challenging when working on them and being profitable when flipping this. So hey, we're gonna roll with it. I've had to replace a bit on this already, and so we're gonna try to get away with not replacing anything else, repairing what we can, what needs to be done, and the name of the game is low budget. Alright, so we got that out, and now you can proceed to pulling out, if it'll fit. Sometimes it won't, in this case it will not. So after some very intense, you call it, finagling, you can usually wiggle it right out. Alright guys, so maybe don't listen to me when I say to take it apart without taking the whole bike apart, but there we go. It does come out at some point, and it just makes it a little bit easier than pulling absolutely everything else apart. So here's the carburetor. That was a lot to get out, but we got it. And now on to cleaning it. All right. So after that less than graceful carburetor removal, I put that there. I was able to get it out, and now we're just gonna continue to pull this apart. Yeah, this bike was not in the best shape. Shouldn't say I got screwed on it, but the other guy got the better end of the deal. But we're gonna still come out on top, because that's what we do here at South Hills Motocross. We do not accept failure. So right off the bat here, we got dirt in the carburetor bowl, which is never a good sign. And right now the main problem is that the carburetor, the float is sticking, because the, well, I'm assuming it's the float that's sticking. I shouldn't say it is the float that's sticking. I'm assuming it's the float that's sticking, because it's leaking out the carburetor overflow when I go and start the bike. So I'm just going to take this apart here. There's a seal, believe it or not. If you pull this out with some vice grips, which here I'll grab in a sec here. If you pull that out, that's actually a seal in there, and if those go bad, you know, you can oil your float and set your float correctly as much as you want, but it's actually not going to do anything because that seal has gone bad. So I'm going to go over, get some vice grips or some pliers. We'll pull that out and we'll check it out. So I got a pair of pliers here. We're going to see how easily this comes out. Sometimes they're pretty tight, but yep, and that's the case. Actually, dumb me, I didn't take out the set screw. So once you take out the set screw to hold it in place, then this comes out a lot easier. And I'm inspecting the gasket here. You see, I don't know how well you guys can see this, but I'm going to hold it close. See the gasket around the I don't even know what to call this, but this is where the needle valve goes in, right in the top here. This gasket, if that's bad, it's going to keep pouring gas into the carburetor. So in this case, that is not the problem. So we're going to put that back in and button that back up. Now, I've seen worse carburetors, and so now I'm being led to believe that the problem is just a sticking float. so as you guys saw, maybe you didn't, hopefully you did. I'm gonna assume you guys did. This is your needle valve, and this allows the fuel, when it's connected to the float, so when the carburetor starts running out of fuel, the float starts falling to the bottom of the bowl, and this needle valve gets pulled out of the of where the fuel inlet is. So you want to make sure that this thing is clean, because it's not really it's pretty precise. There's not really much room for error and play, because you think about it, it's working as a valve. So, oh, I dropped it. But if you're putting it in here, you got to make sure that it's clean, because then if it's dirty, it's grimy. You know, in this case, there was some bad fuel in it. It's gonna stick up. So you want to make sure you get some carb cleaner or something of that manner and clean it up, and you'll be set. So we're gonna throw this carburetor back together. I am going to put some WD-40. That's also another good little tip to use, is WD-40 on not only the pin that holds the float on, the float bushing. Believe it or not, there is a bushing inside of there. And then on top of that, the needle. What is up, guys? Back here, and the bike's all put back together. I didn't film the rest of putting it back together because I hit a lot of setbacks, a lot of little silly things like stripped out bolts, things like that, that at the end of the day just don't make a good video. So it's not really usable content in my eyes. I want to make the most entertaining video I can for you guys, and that stuff is just, it's too time consuming, and it's pointless really to film. But we got it back together, and it runs a lot better now. The carburetor, the float isn't stuck anymore, so it doesn't leak any gas. We got the fresh gas in it, so it helps it run better. And then also, we went through the whole bike, decided I was like, hey, you know what, there's a lot of little stripped out bolts here and there, let's go through it. And so I took the time, went through it, put in the correct bolts, got everything tapped out, re-threaded correctly, so we're good to go on that front. And that's just one of the things, if you buy a bike from South Hills Motocross, myself, you know, that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get a bike that's put back together correctly, and that's been gone through 100%. So you have the confidence that down the road you're not gonna have any little silly problems, or while you're out riding, you know, you're gonna be set. So we went through, got that all taken care of. Now it's put back together like you guys see. If you guys like this video, give it a like, comment, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. You know, I really appreciate anything like that. You know, it just helps motivate me to keep putting out videos and keep getting better. So I was going to be, but hey, you know, spread the channel, spread the word, you know, help it grow. You know, I really appreciate anything you guys do. So until next time, ride on.